Hi guys, today we're going to start doing at least a little bit of review, and I want to be able to do a version of this with you. So you'll notice this says on the top of this final exam final exam here, but really we're going to talk about this being really a review. It's just another version of the test that I'm not going to use in the actual test, but I made an extra one besides the one we're going to do in class so that you have a couple different examples to look at. Now, I would suggest as we're doing this that you do a good job of writing notes somewhere. You can mark it, put it in your notebook, whatever it is, because I want you to be able to have these examples and also the examples of the review that we're going to do together if you're in class. If you're not in class, I'm going to post a copy of it that you're going to complete and turn in as an assignment. And I just want to make sure everybody's kind of clear about what they need to do. So I'm going to write on this as we do in class. Normally I would write on box paper, but I'm going to write on this just to kind of help myself out. So if I do this, I'm going to kind of go through and set it up. Now, all the first beginning ones, I'd say through the first 5, are all ones that will be the butterfly method. So remember, we're going to use the butterfly method for all of the ones that are add or subtract. That's the method that we're going to use. So I'm going to kind of go off on the side over here to do this as we go through. So I'm going to set up the first one. I'm just going to kind of move up here so I can have room to do it. So 9 over 12 plus 7 over 10. Now, we're in good shape because all of these fractions that you have, both of these, are set up in just fraction form. There's no mixed numbers, there's no whole numbers, none of that. And then we're going to go ahead and set up our butterfly. So on the first one, if I do this first piece, those numbers are 9 and 10. We're going to multiply them together to be 90. If I multiply these two together, 12 times 7 is going to be 84. And we need to go through and add these two together to get this number. So 90 plus 84 is 174. These two, 12 times 10 is 120. That's going to go here. And then remember, anytime that you're going to go through, if you need to reduce, you're going to need to use Desmos. Now, that's the only thing you're going to be able to have open during the exam. Whether you're in person or whether you're on cohort C and at home, the only tab that you're going to be able to open is Desmos. So the kids at home, you're going to do a Google form. And literally the only tab you'll be able to open is Desmos. If you're in class, that's the only screen you're going to have to be, that's going to be open. So if I take this and I put it into Desmos, it's going to reduce to 29 over 20. Now, because the top number is bigger than the bottom, I'm going to have to divide it. So it goes in there one time with 9 left over. So it's 1 and 9 over 20. Now that means that it would match this. So if you're in class, I'm going to ask you to circle it and put it on the line for the exam. Everybody else that's taking it, if you're taking it online and you're not in person, you're going to have to take pictures of all your work and turn it in. So I'm still going to have to see all of this numbered on lined paper or whatever it is that you're using, because you're going to have work for every single one to be able to have it graded. Okay, now I'm going to the next one. So the next one is 2/3 minus 2 over 9. So I'm going to set up my butterfly. So in the first one, 9 times 2 is 18. Then this one, 3 times 2 is going to be 6. Now in this one, we're subtracting that. So that's going to be 12. On the bottom, 3 times 9 is going to be 27. And if I reduce that in Desmos, it would be 4 over 9. So it's going to be A. Please make sure you're looking at the answers and not just writing down something. I have to be able to see kind of what you're answering and what you're doing. So make sure that part of it I can tell. Okay, so I'm going to go to number 3. Before I do number 3, you'll know these are mixed numbers. So the first thing I have to do before I can do the butterfly method is to add my multiplication and add sign in there so that you can see what the mixed number is going to change into to make it improper. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So that's 7 over 2. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11. So it's 11 over 4. Now I can take these pieces and I can go ahead and go over to the side and set up the butterfly method. So I have 7 over 2 plus 11 over 4. So 7 times 4 is 28. Oops, let me change color here. 2 times 11 will be 22. So those two together would be 50. On the bottom, 2 times 4 is 8. It's going to be over 8. So if I were to take this and put it into Desmos, it's going to reduce to 25 over 4 because the number on top is larger than the number on the bottom. I have to divide it out. So that goes in there 6 times with 1 left over. So it's going to be 6 1/4. So if I go back and look, that's going to match A. Okay, now all of the stuff I'm doing, none of this is new. So you have examples of this that should already be on your notes. There are examples of every one of these problems that we've done as you go through the playlist of the videos that we've done or any of the previous videos. Okay, so now I'm going to set these up. And they are mixed numbers. So I'm going to start by adding my plus sign and my multiplying sign so I can get them into improper. So 10 times 16 is 160, plus 1 is 161. So it's going to be 161 over 10. 5 times 9 is 45, plus 2 is 47. Okay, now I'm going to take that and I'm going to go over and do the butterfly method with it. So let's see, I have 161 over 10 minus 47 over 5. Okay, I'm going to set up my butterfly. So 5 times 161 is 805. 10 times 47 is 470. Now, if I subtract those two, I'm going to end up with 335. On the bottom, 10 times 5 is 50. Now, if I were to put this into Desmos, it's going to reduce down to 67 over 10. So I'm going to have to divide that out because the top number is bigger. So it goes in there 6 times with 7 left over. So it's going to be 6 and 7 over 10. Okay, so if I go back and look, that's going to match C. Okay, we have one more that is subtraction, and then we're going to switch over to looking at multiply and divide. So on number 5, I have mixed numbers. So I'm going to get my multiplication add symbol there. So 3 times 9 is 27, plus 2 is 29, so it's 29 over 3. 6 times 4 is 24, plus 5 is 29 over 6. Now that they're both fractions, I'm going to go over to the side over here and set it up for the butterfly method. So I have 29 over 3 minus 29 over 6. Okay, so 6 times 29 is 174. 3 times 29 is 87. So if I do 174 minus 87, it's going to be 87. To get the bottom down here, I have to multiply those two together. So 3 times 6 is 18. Now, if I put this into Desmos, it's going to be 29 over 6. Okay, because the top number is bigger than the bottom, we're going to have to divide it out. So 6 goes into 29 4 times, with 5 left over. So 4 and 5 over 6. Which is going to match this. So it's going to be D. Now, those are all the ones that are add and subtract. So now we have to make sure when we do multiply and divide, we have kind of a different path. So when we multiply or divide, we are not using the butterfly method. So that part we should know right from the very beginning, so don't get yourself confused. I'm a little concerned about that. So if I go to this first one, if they're all still fractions, which is the first step, then I'm going to be able to just multiply across. So in this first one, 1 times 6 is going to be 6. 2 times 10 is 20. If I put this into Desmos, it's going to reduce down to 3 over 10. Because the top number is smaller than the bottom, you don't have to do anything else. So it's going to be that. So now I'm going to go and work on this next one, which is all about dividing. So remember, it has to start out as a fraction, which this does. So once you have that, it's going to be keep, change, and flip. So we keep the first number. Division changes to multiplication. Then I'm going to flip the second one. Now we can just multiply across. So 6 times 12 is 72. 9 times 6 is 54. Now if I take this and put it into Desmos to reduce, it's going to be 4 over 3. But the top number is bigger than the bottom, so I'm going to have to divide. So 3 goes into 4 once, with 1 left over. So it's 1 1/3, which means it's going to match C. Okay, now I think 6 and 7 are the easier of the multiplying because they're already in fraction form. As we go to this next one, you're going to notice it's not set up in fraction form. So I'm going to have to start by putting the multiplication and symbols in there. So 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. So 10 over 3. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So it's 5 over 2. Because it's multiplying, I can just multiply across now. So 10 times 5 is 50, and 3 times 2 is 6. If I reduce that, it's going to be 25 over 3. But the top number is bigger than the bottom number, so we have to divide. So 3 goes into 25 8 times. So it's going to be 8 1/3. So that one's going to be A. Now, I'm going to flip over to the next part. We have one more divide that we're going to look at, and then we're going to make our change to solving equations and combining like terms. So the first half of the test is fractions, add, subtract, multiply, divide, and the last half is equations and combining like terms. So here's our next one. Again, this is a dividing one, and it's mixed numbers. So my first thing is going to get these into improper form. Now I want you to notice this next step. I'm going to leave this here. I'm not going to worry about keep, change, or flip until I have stuff all set up in the right order. Once I do that, it's going to be a little different. Okay, then I can go through and do my keep, change, flip. So 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. So 13 over 3. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 1 is 17. So 17 over 4. Okay, once I get that, then I can do my keep, change, and flip. So I'm going to keep the first one the way it is, change division to multiplication, and flip the second one. Now it's set up as multiplying so I can multiply across. So 13 times 4 is 52. 3 times 17 is 51. Now, if I put this in Desmos, it wouldn't reduce. But the top number is bigger than the bottom, so we need to divide. So it goes in there once with 1 left over. So it's going to be 1 and 1 over 51. Oops, I guess that didn't look very nice. So that matches B. Okay, now all the rest of these are equations. And as I've said before, keep writing these examples in your notebook so that you have something to do. Okay, and look back at when you're going to take the exam. That would be the big clue or the big, I think, advantage to this. So this one says use mental math to solve the equation. So I'm not really worried about this part. Your focus is they want you to be able to solve the equation. So if I have x plus 3 equals negative 10. So solving the equation, you're just trying to get this alone. So the opposite of adding 3 is subtracting 3. So those cancel. I'm left with x. On this side, negative 10 minus 3 is negative 13. So that matches A. Now, I'm just going to keep going, solving these equations. We have several of them. And then there's going to be a couple, let's see, 1, 2, 3 of being able to combine like terms and simplifying. So I'm going to take number 11 right here, and I'm just going to move it over here. So I have negative 2 equals E plus 36. So first of all, you want the variable alone. So that's the E. So the opposite of adding 36 is subtracting 36. So those cancel and you're left with E. Then negative 2 minus 36 is negative 38. So we're going to have C. Okay, for number 12, I have 6x equals 30. So if I want to get x alone, I've got to get rid of this. And that means 6 times x. So the opposite of multiplying by 6 is dividing by 6. So that cancels, you're left with x. 30 divided by 6 is going to be 5. So your answer is C. Okay, now the next couple I put on there because I don't want you to be thrown off if there's decimals. So on the next one, 8.9x is 9.2 equals 80 plus 4. So I'm subtracting 9.2 from both sides. So I have 8.9x and 80.4 minus 9.2 is 71.2. Divide both sides by 8.9. So these cancel. So 71.2 divided by 8.9 is going to be 8. So your answer is A. Okay, I'm just going to go back. I'm going to draw just a few lines here so I'm not confusing myself or you when I go to write. Okay, 14, I have 0.1 equals x over 4 minus 1.5. So I'm going to move that over here. Again, you can use lined paper, or if you're in class, you'll have box paper when we actually take the exam. So remember, I want x by itself, so I've got to get rid of these things. So I start with this. So the opposite of subtracting 1.5 is adding 1.5. So 1.6 equals x over 4. Then this x over 4 is really x divided by 4. So the opposite of dividing by 4 is multiplying by 4. So 4 times 1.6 is going to be 6.4. So if you want to switch it, if you want to switch it around so it's this, that's completely fine. Okay, so that means this one is going to be D. Okay, so 3 more equation ones. And then we're going to move to combining like terms. So this says, again, use number sense to solve the equation. So I'm not really worried about this one. I'm just worried about you solving the equation. So I have 3x plus 9 equals 27. So I'm going to move that over here. So to get x alone, I got to get rid of this first. So the opposite of adding 9 is subtracting 9. 27 minus 9 is going to be 18. Then to get x alone, I just have to divide by 3. So I get x equals 6. So this one, that's going to be D. Okay, so the next one is 8x plus 84 or 83 equals 3. So to get x alone, we got to get rid of this first. So the opposite of adding 83 is subtracting 83. So those cancel. I'm left with 8x. 3 minus 83 is negative 80. Now to get x alone, I'm going to divide by 8. So that leaves me x. And then I have negative 10. So there's my answer. Okay, now just because I'm writing on this paper, I'm going to take and make a little room for myself over here to keep doing the rest of them. Remember, you're going to be either writing out a notebook paper or you're going to be going through and using box paper when we actually do the real one if you're in class. If you're doing it on line paper, that's fine. Just make sure you're numbering as you go. Okay, so this is 3y minus 7 equals negative 12. Okay, so to do this one, I'm going to have to distribute this 3 to both numbers. Remember, that means that I have to multiply. So 3 times y is 3y. 3 times negative 7 is negative 21 equals negative 12. Okay, now I just need to worry about getting y alone. So right here, the opposite of subtracting 21 is adding 21. So negative 12 plus 21 is going to be 9. Then I just have to divide both sides by 3. I get y equals 3. So that one, oops, it's not really negative. I just hit my pen there by accident, is going to be B. Now, for the next one, we're going to talk about combining like terms. So I have Q minus 29Q. So remember, we do assume that there's a 1 in front of this one before we get started, okay? Then remember, we kind of get our terms together. The only thing I have are Q's. So I have 1Q and negative 29Q. So I know there's going to be a Q in the answer. And then all I'm doing is adding them up. So 1 plus negative 29 is negative 28Q. So that's going to match this. Now, the last two say simplify the expression. That basically means that you're going to just be combining like terms and doing whatever you need to do to get those in the simplest form that we can. Okay, so if I'm going through to do this, if I look at the example I have here on 19, negative 6a minus 3b plus 8a minus 7b. So there are a's and b's. So when I go to make my columns, remember if I have more than one letter, they go in alphabetical order. Then I've got to get kind of my pieces together as we talked about in class and start to sort them. So it's going to be negative 6a. Oh, I guess I could have written with something darker. Sorry, guys. So negative 6a. I'm going to make minus 3b a negative 3b. It's positive 8a. Negative 7b is going to become what we do from this minus 7b. Now we just have to total. So negative 6a plus 8a is 2a. Negative 3b and negative 7b is going to be negative 10b. So I'm going to do minus 10b. Now there has to be work for these combining like terms. So if you don't show anything, I won't be able to say you successfully know the skill if you only write the answer. So I've got to be able to see your work. Okay, so this one is going to match A. Okay, on our last one, there's kind of a couple things. I have 9 parentheses x minus 10 plus 7x. I can add a 1 there. I have to distribute to these two only. So 9 times 1x is 9x. 9 times negative 10 is negative 90 plus 7x. Just bringing that over. This is not part of the parentheses, so don't distribute that. Okay, now I have x's and my numbers. So now I need to get them ready to get sorted. So 9x minus 90, I'm going to make negative 90, and 7x. So it's going to be 16x minus 90, which matches D. Okay, now you're going to have another review that if you're in class and going to in-person classes, we're going to be working on in class. If you are a cohort C kid, then you're going to be attaching your work on the slides just like we would in class. But again, it's taking a picture and assigning and putting it on the assignment. Don't make another assignment. It's just too many documents to have to look through to make sure that I'm getting everything that you're trying to show me. Okay? Make sure you're practicing and studying.